Welcome to a football show Thursday edition. That is Nick Suss of the Tennessean, Pay for Good Journalism. I am Braden Gall. We are brought to you by Sinkers Beverages. Good morning, Nick. How are you, sir?
I'm doing all right. I'm doing well. I'm doing okay. All of those things.
Those are good things to be. Good
Yeah.
things to be. If you would like to be involved with the show, please do so. We'd love to have you involved today. We are going to discuss many things that you hopefully want to be involved in. So lots of ranting at the end of the show. Number one, we're going to rant about things. We're going to rant about the Heisman Trophy. That's Nick Suss's territory. We're going to rant about Notre Dame. That's my territory. We're going to rant about the playoff. We'll talk Phillip Rivers maybe at the end as well. I have a nugget, let's call it a nugget for all of you as it pertains to the Super Bowl in Nashville, Tennessee. So we'll do that. But most importantly, the two main topics today is sort of scouting the coaching staff of the San Francisco 49ers, the Shanahan tree, as it were, namely Robert Saleh today, which I know we'll discuss that this weekend, which I know is your number one candidate right now. Excuse me. But also lots of other names that came off the Kyle Shanahan tree. So we'll get into that. How much does the prior situation with Rand Carthon impact their decision to go back to the San Francisco well? We will discuss that. And our main topic today is Cam Ward actually getting better? You had a chance to sit down with Bo Hardigree last week. We will discuss some of the things that you talked about with him, namely 4 main categories of playing the quarterback position. So we'll get into that. And then that is tied directly into Cam's response to the win. PK and I covered it a little bit. I don't think on this show we have given Cam Ward too much of a hard time, nor do I think anyone should, for sort of his pendulum swinging back and forth in terms of what he's valuing and how he goes out and how he explains himself. He's also a rookie quarterback. But learning to win versus the draft slot is a major conversation that is tied into, is Cam Ward getting better? Development, all this stuff is all kind of wrapped into one big conversation to start the show. Sinkers Beverages, Nick Suss, I know that you know that there is a holiday coming up.
I am currently lit by a holiday tree.
Regardless of what holiday you celebrate, the Festivus for the rest of us, I'm sure, is one of your favorites.
December 23rd.
Despite, no matter what you celebrate, you're going to need to probably do and or purchase nice things for other people in your life, regardless of how those nice things are delivered. And a lot of times, you know, a place like Sinkers Beverages is not where you go get the gift for your spouse. That's not the place to do this. But you have lots of other people in your lives that would be greatly appreciative of like a nice little gesture, a holiday gesture, as it were. So a nice bottle of wine, a nice bottle of bourbon, even just a 6-pack of beer, or perhaps some barware. You know, they got glasses and cocktail books and things that make drinks, all kinds of stuff. They have non-alcoholic stuff, great stocking stuffers, great office gifts as well. So Sinkers is a great place to go if you need just a last-minute shopping idea, last-minute holiday idea over the course of the next few weeks. Just pop in there. There's so much good stuff in there, and it's not just, hey, like a nice bottle of something. It is that, but it's a lot of other things too. So make sure you go check out Sinkers Beverages. 5-time, I just shorted them. 5-time liquor store of the year. Search Uber Eats, have the booze delivered directly to your house and or party and or office, I guess, in theory, if you wanted to risk it. And also sign up for the In-Crowd, their customer appreciation group. Lots of really cool stuff in there, as usual. Good morning, fellas, from Bustin' Diamond. If you want to get involved in the comment section, please do so. Share the show on YouTube, share the show on Twitter, share the show on Facebook, wherever it is you watch it. If you're listening on the podcast app of choice, we do appreciate you. Please give us 5 stars. If you do not give us 5 stars, you are a hater. All right, I'm going to start with this Cam confidence, learning to win, development, draft pick conversation, which feels like 3 or 4 different conversations kind of all wrapped into one big ball. Let's go back to the conversation with Bo Hardigree first. Mm-hmm. And that is, what was your goal going into the conversation? Did you accomplish that goal? Before we get into the details of what he said and what you took away from the conversation, like, what was the goal?
My big question was, I think we can all agree that Cam is different. How intentional is that? What are you doing? Why are you doing what you're doing? We all understand that at the very least, some of the coaches are lame ducks. at the very most, everybody's job is unsafe as the Titans look to hire a new head coach. Yet, these are the people who are the shepherds of Cam to the next staff. There is absolutely no reason to coast because everybody wants that next job if it's not with the Titans. And everybody feels a duty or loyalty to make Cam the best version of what he is. So I wanted to sit down, frankly, with people in the front office to talk about it. And Bo ended up being the person I spoke to. And I am very grateful for that because Bo gave a really good interview. But I think that what we will talk about was a very intentional mapping from the ground up of what the Titans are repping and working and focusing on to get Cam to where they think he should be.
And four main categories that you broke it into, which was feet, torso, eyes, and brain. There's more to it than that. It's more complicated than that. So we'll get to all of that. And so this is a quick moment to just sort of acknowledge, like, the tanking thing doesn't happen to any individual in the NFL. There's not a single human on an individual level that tanks for any reason. The players are putting tape down to earn a job. The coaches are putting tape down to earn a job. The front office is putting tape down to earn a job. Every human is trying as hard as possible to do the best possible job they can, even in lame duck situations, even when the team has one win or now two, even when they're the first pick in the draft. Yeah. So I just want to make, like, I know we say it all the time, but I think it's worth noting. An owner can say to a front office, like, hey, we need to trade this player, and that makes the team worse, maybe. But the player you put out there is not going to not try.
I'm not going to speak in absolutes. There are extenuating circumstances when a coaching staff knows that it is safe for a year, that there are things that can happen, but never on December 8th. Like, we are still too early. When was this game? December 7th, December 8th, whenever the game was.
Sure.
That is not when the tanking will happen.
Right. Coach Will says, just checking to see if this is a Tennessee Titans safe space. Twitter has been rough after a Titans win. Is this just tied directly to the draft thing, Coach Wills? Is that you and I, Nick, are not exactly, we don't troll the sewers as much anymore. Or maybe you never did. I don't know. I don't as much anymore. Where's Zach Lyons when you need him?
I can tell you I don't anymore because one time I did a rant about the Heisman Trophy. And so 4 years later, let's see what happens when I do it again.
So your rant about the Heisman Trophy is a rant about a rant?
No.
Okay.
But the last time that I was part of the sewers was that. But yeah, no, let's talk about Cam Ward.
Yes, there you go. Okay. So quickly, your thoughts on the reaction after what did Cam say Wednesday? He basically said he's not taking it back.
No,
is what he's saying about, for lack of a better term, after his conversation on Sunday, which was, again, very negative in terms of, like, negative maybe isn't the right word, just sort of like sort of cynical maybe. Maybe he's just wired this way. And I know people in business, and we talked about this a little bit on Monday, but I didn't get into the details. Like, I know people working on this beer documentary, for example. There's a gentleman who I spoke to who runs Bearded Iris. Kayvon Tograi is his name. He launched Bearded Iris. He sold it to Wiseacre a couple of months ago. And when I talked to him, I did a long interview with him and sat him down, and I said, like, do you ever take a second to kind of step back and appreciate what you've built? Like, do you ever, like, how are you wired? And he basically was like, my wife makes me do it, like, around the holidays, but I am not wired that way. I don't understand it. I don't know what it's like to stop swimming forward. Like a shark has to stay moving. There are certain people that, and he's aware of it. He was like, he explained it to me, on the record. There are people that don't know how to do that. They don't know how to look back. They don't know how to slow down, take it all in, especially when they're young. And I think Cam Ward is just wired that way. I think he's looking at what just happened and looking ahead, saying, I need to do this better. I'm glad we got the win. We need to do this better. And when he doesn't have a win, I need to get the win. And so I really don't think it's a big deal at all. I just think it's how he's wired. And I like that he came back on Wednesday and said, no, I'm not. I meant what I said. Basically, not so many words. How did you read the whole thing?
I'm looking up the exact dates because I need to. I think it was 2009 is when my attitude on this whole perspective solidified. Do you remember the Colts Patriots game in the Brady Manning Belichick era, where there's like 3 minutes left and it's fourth down, and the Patriots are deep in their own territory and they should punt to win the game, but they decide to go for it and they fail, and Peyton Manning scores a touchdown and wins the game. Do you remember this saga at all?
Very vaguely, yeah.
And Bill Belichick's explanation was, I just didn't want to give Peyton Manning the ball. And punting it, you guarantee he gets the ball. And going for it, there's a chance he doesn't get the ball. I think about that as the ultimate example of the discussion of what matters, making the right choice or succeeding. There is a huge difference between succeeding and doing what it takes to succeed. Sports are a luck-based business. We all know this. 50% of what happens on an NFL field is going to come down to the execution and bounce of an oblong spheroid object. It's very weird and strange. So, when we filter it through the idea of what Cam Ward's attitude has been, I fundamentally agree. If you win, but you did not do the things that it normally takes to win, you shouldn't rest on the laurels of, well, we won, because that's not going to lead you to winning in the future. You guys have heard me say enough on this podcast that I don't care about winning. I care about winning by a lot of points. The Titans won by 2 points on the road against a pretty putrid Browns team. And sure, the deficit dwindled because of the defense giving up 2 long drives at the end of the game.
Personal foul penalties.
It also dwindled because the last 6 times the Titans touched the football went run for no gain, run for 2 yards, run for 2 yards, run for 4 yards, run for 2 yards, run for no gain. 6 plays, no first downs, 6 handoffs. And if there is any measure of frustration, Cam has brought up multiple times, I don't like the way we executed in the fourth quarter. We played really well for 3 quarters. And then in the fourth quarter, I don't like the way we executed. This is a guy who time and time again has said he wants the ball in his hands with chance to win the game. And the Titans did not keep the ball in his hands. They probably shouldn't have. They ran for like 185 yards that game. Right. They should have kept running the ball.
The game plan was sound. The line was playing great. Why go away from it?
That was the right choice.
Yeah.
But if you see these 2 drives, one of which coming after the blocked punt when they settled for a field goal to go up 14, the other coming after the Browns' long drive up 8, where if you drove and got a field goal, you would have put the game away. Both opportunities could have won the game. And both times they took the ball completely out of his hands. The last pass he threw was a touchdown pass. I am not saying
a critical pass on a very critical situation where he delivered correctly. Yeah.
Now, none of this is me saying Cam pulled me aside and told me that's why he was angry. He also didn't play that well when he did drop back. 50% completion, 4.5, I believe, yards per attempt. It was not a great game for him. All of this contributes to totally justified not being happy with your performance. Now, does it add up based on all of the things he said for the past 7 months about the only thing that matters to him is winning? No, we can quibble on a little bit of gotcha hypocrisy stuff there, which I don't like peddling in. People are going to contradict themselves. They're human. But when we talk about, oh, should he have been happier? No, that he didn't play in a way that is conducive to winning. The team did. And it's a team sport, and the team should be happy. But no individual should say, oh, I'm thrilled that I played badly because we won.
So that is all tied into. So Monday, I rephrased this, and PK kind of did it on his side of things. And I kind of took it, and it's really landed on me from Monday. And I was very excited to talk to you about this coming off of all those things you just said. And that is, and this gets us kind of into the next part of the conversation, which is it's not so much that, because I've said it for 4 or 5 weeks on the show, like learning to win and the value of that inside of a locker room is really, really hard to quantify. It's just very hard to quantify. You can't, It's hard to say that I am a 84% better. I'm an 84% winner now when I was an 82% winner before, and I started as a 79% winner. Like, it's impossible to do that. But one of the things that I had not, and this is, I kind of felt stupid for not thinking about this, is that the game of football today, the rules around the NFLPA and the rules around contact and the rules around practice are so different today than they were 15 years ago, than they were 30 years ago, than they were 50 years ago. The amount of time you actually have to get better on a football field against other football players has been diminished to almost nothing other than the games.
Right.
Other than the games. And so, and it's like one of those, that's like aha moments where I'm like, how stupid was I for not realizing this? And PK said, it's not about it's not even about it's about development, right? Which is what we're about to talk about. And so the best possible way for a human being to get good at something or better at something is to do it. This is sounds like I'm parenting my children. Guys, you got to practice. You got to practice. You want to get good at this? You got to practice. You want to get good at that? You got to practice. But even better than that is doing it in a game or doing it for real life or doing it on stage or whatever. And because there's no two-a-days, because there's no full pad hitting very much in training camp, because the off season you're away from everything, there is no time for Cam Ward to get better at this other than right now. It is the best possible way for him to get better is to just play games.
Yeah.
And so it's less about the outcome of the game, the win or loss. It's far more about the reps and the development and the progress and the experience. And as you said in your story, bankable intel.
Yes.
Bankable intel is what we are trying to collect right now if you are Cam Ward, the coaching staff, and the front office. And that is far more valuable than going from pick 1 to pick 2.
Kind of. And I'm going to write about this today, a little bit of a spoiler for Tennessean.com. You'll be able to see the story probably on Friday. I talked to a couple of players, 3 or 4 players in the Titans locker room who have been on winning teams before. And I asked them, hey, when did you learn how to win? What makes you think that you know how to win? And time again, the answer from these players was not, oh, well, I practiced really hard and achieved the skill of winning. Time and time again, the answer was, I saw people who knew how to win. And I felt what winning feels like. And I stood on the sideline, down by 3 points in the fourth quarter, and saw what it looked like to be on a team that thought they were going to win, even though the circumstances were stacked against us. And we can talk about the bankable intel, and I believe that is the best way for an individual to get better. But I think there is also a mass psychology at play here. Let's call it a faith effect. That for one person to believe that they are doing their job right, that person has to practice and get better and get better and get better and get better. But for the 48 people up on game day to collectively know how to win, that has to be something that is much more observed and is much more tied to we found a way to win, so we know how important the individual moments are. So it is this really tricky balance where you are right that for Cam the individual, playing well matters more than winning. But for the collective health of the Titans, winning matters more than playing well. In a best case scenario, you want both. You want to play well and you want to win. That's how you succeed. But it's this strange thing where one for all for one needs to come into effect, where if you don't play well but the team wins, you need to take notes on, well, how did we win despite not playing well? And how can I look at these 5 moments, these 6 moments that changed the game, that said, even though we didn't do what we set out to do, we still found a way to win. How do I integrate that into
Van Jefferson?
Yeah. How do I integrate that into day to day? How do I take advantage of these moments and know how important these moments are, while also saying, I didn't do enough. How do I get better at them? Both of these things need to happen.
Yeah, and I hear the refrain, where the best case scenario is that everybody plays really well and the team loses. And I think, I'm not with like PK on like that's a loser's mentality for the fans. Like I understand the fan who's like, yeah, but picking fifth is worse than picking first. Like there's a quantifiable difference between those two slots.
Correct.
But at the end of the day, like, and I'm saying this with Preds fans right now too. Like they're so obsessed with the tank. They're so obsessed with picking out the first, trying to get the first pick for so and so player. And hockey is a little different. We've discussed it. You can get great Hall of Famers in the NFL far more down in the first round than you do with like the game-changing elite all-around superstars in the NHL. They generally are the first or second pick in the draft. But like it doesn't mean that there aren't moments to enjoy as a fan still, because the games are still the reason you're a fan. like the Predators have beaten Florida and Colorado in overtime in 2 of their last 3 games. Those were really exciting moments for fans to enjoy.
Yes.
And so beating the Browns should be a thing you enjoy, especially with how dramatic the final finish was. Again, as a non-fan, I just appreciate drama and entertainment, right? Like give me the entertainment value is sort of what I'm looking for here. But I don't know if I subscribe to. I think there's got to be like some weird balance, like you say. There's a balance between the team and the individual. There's a balance between your draft value being a silver lining in a loss versus a win adding value to the team in the future, which is very hard to quantify. And so I understand why fans look at it in the most black and white way, which is win game, move down, and draft bad.
Yes.
Like so I understand it. I don't, I'm not going to be as critical or as harsh on the fans for that. But you can't just ignore the value of experience, bankable intel, learning to win, developing individually, growing together as a team. And oh, by the way, there's a lot of names that are going to be gone off this team. Not the core, not the young core. The young core is all coming back.
Yeah.
Every one of these guys is coming back. The Sneeds of the world, they're not out there learning to win right now. The Calvin Ridleys of the world that might not be here, not out there winning right now. Lloyd Cushenberry might not be here, not out there winning right now.
Yeah. This is also the point in the year where I have to bring out my old standard stat, which is there are fewer than 10 top 5 draft picks this century who have won a Super Bowl with the team that drafted them. The list of top 5 draft picks who ended up winning Super Bowls with the team that drafted them.
Are you talking quarterbacks or are you talking every player?
Any position.
Wow. Okay.
The list of players is shockingly small.
Can you do it?
I can remember some of them off the top of my head. It's like Devin White with Tampa. It's Carson Wentz, but he was on the bench. He didn't actually play because he was hurt. It's Eli, technically, even though the Chargers drafted him. It's Jamal Lewis, I want to say. In Baltimore, yeah. I think was a top 5 pick.
You're saying all time, or is
I'm saying since 2000.
Since 2000, okay.
Which the modern era of the NFL, the last 25 drafts, 26 drafts.
Sure.
It is 6 or 7 guys, and I'm sorry that I did that. That was an accident. It is a very small amount of guys that have won Super Bowls as top 5 picks with the teams that drafted them. Yeah. Jalen Ramsey didn't win a Super Bowl with the Jaguars, but he won a Super Bowl. Matthew Stafford didn't win a Super Bowl with the Lions, but he won a Super Bowl. It doesn't matter if Matthew Stafford wins a Super Bowl with the Rams if you pick him as the Lions.
Well, and like Aaron Donald is a perfect example. Drafted by the Rams and developed by the Rams and is the greatest player maybe of our generation at his position, not a top 5 pick.
Yeah, he was like 11th.
Another perfect example of how the best of the best of the best you can still get him at 7 or 9 or 10 or 12.
Yeah, I think that when we talk about the extreme value of the number 1 pick, of having the number 1 pick, of being able to trade the number 1 pick, if we're looking at the dynasties of modern football, 0 of them were built that way.
Yeah.
That's not to say it's not a good strategy, but the number 1 pick has been traded 3 times in the 21st century. The 2001 Chargers traded it to the Falcons. The 2016 Titans traded it to the Rams. And the 2023 Panthers traded it, or Bears traded it to the Panthers or something like that.
And then they got the number 1 pick in that trade the following year. Yeah.
And so I don't think that pointing out those examples of teams that none of which won Super Bowls is going to be, oh, well, this is the immediate way. It's a really good way. It's really good to trade back. It's really good to get all these assets. That is not how any of the teams at the top got to the top. So there are other ways to get to the top, even if you have the number 4 pick. It's better to have the number 1 pick, but don't think that's the only way to get better.
Right. Like it's quantifiably better in a very simple, easy way to quantify it. It doesn't really tie you to anything moving forward at all.
Yeah.
And so all right, I think we've kind of handled that part of this conversation. Let's get to the Cam Ward of it all.
Yeah.
Feet, torso, eyes, and brain is how you broke it down.
Yeah.
And I think it's, torso feels like it's sort of a catch-all for a lot of things, despite its very specific part of the body.
Yeah. Arm, core, ability.
Yeah. And I don't want to, because the story's really good. Bo was really interesting. Gave you a lot of good stuff. Of course, the writing is excellent as usual.
Thank you.
Can I give you my negative takeaway first?
For sure.
And my cynical reaction to it, and then we can kind of work through each one.
Of course.
I am generally like each of those 4 areas when talking through with Bo Hardigree about his progress didn't exactly give me a ton of confidence about Cam Ward in general. Outside of the line where he basically said all of this, one of the things I'm not worried about at all with Cam Ward is him fixing problems. That's something we've all known about him for a long time. And I think it is the thing. If he is good in the NFL, it will be because of that.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to clear my throat a little bit with that. But basically, it's like when he describes the footwork element, he is describing taking a player back to like day 1 of development of quarterback play, which is how to drop back 3, 5, 7 steps in a clean pocket, which doesn't really exist. It's like he's deconstructing his footwork to build it back up again. But it sounds like he's starting from scratch, which is a little concerning to some degree. Not something we didn't know. We knew this about Cam, that he was going to have to work on his feet, but, pretty basic stuff. He's still not seeing all the things he needs to see pre-snap. He's still not like it's not there yet. There's not a lot of moments where about a thing with Cam Ward says he's got it. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe he shouldn't have it in some of these things, but there didn't feel like there was any explanation from Hardigree on any of these areas with Cam Ward where he's like excited about how good he is at it already. And even with Mahomes, studying Mahomes has Andy Reid, Hall of Fame tight end, albeit a shell of his former self, bunch of speedy receivers, pretty good offensive line, albeit banged up, and they are under 500 with the greatest quarterback of our era. So, like, even with a lot of great supporting stuff, you can still trend down quickly. So, I maybe I'm just being too cynical, but I didn't come away from his explanation of Cam's areas of progress or development or work with a lot of confidence. And you can tell me I'm wrong here if you want to.
No, I will start with this caveat, which I've been thinking on since I wrote the article. Big believer here in remembering what I said I thought would happen. So I'm going back to July, I'm going back to August, remembering what I said. And I said, man, the goal for Cam Ward is, can he be the 23rd or 24th best quarterback in the NFL at the start of the year? And can he get closer to the middle of the pack by the end of the year? Can he baseline be in the 25th percentile, and can he approach the 50th percentile? His baseline was not the 25th percentile, and I don't even think he has approached the 25th percentile yet.
Agree.
It needs to be said before we get into any of these micro conversations that Cam Ward has not been good enough. That nobody is ignoring that. If there is anybody listening who thinks we are letting Cam off the hook, we are not letting Cam off the hook. He has not been good enough. Now, with that caveat out of the way, let's go micro. Let's talk about feet first. Let's talk about footwork. People have been very frustrated with footwork. People have been very concerned by the somewhat sloppy footwork that people have seen on tape from Cam. Bo and I talked about this. Essentially, the conversation boiled down to they are teaching him how to always have a set base and how to find his set base even when things aren't the way they're supposed to be. And from that standard of being able to find his base as things break down and collapse and fall around him, the Titans believe Cam Ward has gotten better throughout the season. He does not have perfect footwork yet, but the Titans believe that the fundamental necessity of being able to set his feet and throw from a base has improved.
Okay.
Is that enough? Of course not. Is it improvement? Probably.
Yeah. Like, it's one of those things where two things are true. He has shown progress. He acknowledged it was a thing he needed to work on and is working on it. All of that's positive.
Yes.
I am more concerned that he was further behind than I expected, and it was something I was already concerned about, right? I think that's kind of where I'm at with the feet. So I need to see more of that, honestly, because you don't get clean pockets very often in the NFL.
Right.
You just don't. And so resetting your base sometimes, like, and the great quarterbacks that he says he idolizes, frankly, Mahomes and Rodgers, what made them so great is like they did. Once you're good at the technique and the fundamentals of good platform, good base, good feet, then you can let your arm do all the work after that. Yeah. And that's what Rodgers and Mahomes are so great at. But like it doesn't happen for him yet. So yes. that good positive step in the right direction, positive progress. Glad that he's working on it. Glad that it was an area that everyone saw that he needed to work on. The coaching staff is all over it. It was further behind than I expected.
Yes.
At the start. To your point about being 24th at the start of the season, it was a little bit more like 31st.
Yes.
Maybe. All right, let's go to the torso.
Which brings us to the torso. Throwing the football, accurately throwing the football, getting the football where it needs to go. Hasn't been very good. Has not been very good. I asked Hardigree specifically about the accuracy, and this is one that I couldn't really put in the story because the answer was just pretty much, yeah, no, it's fine. I like it. It's good. And I didn't necessarily think that there was enough justification for how it's good other than just, yeah, it's good. We've all seen it, especially throwing deep, especially on tight window throws, especially on rushed throws. The ball doesn't necessarily go where it needs to go. It is not, the word I kept using in the interview was precise, talking about precision with throwing. And when I asked where does precision come from, Bo was like, yeah, that comes in the offseason. That comes with going to Cabo with the receivers, or that comes having private workouts. Or
I could use some precision in my life.
Yeah, that comes from stuff that Cam was not afforded because there was a draft process that kind of took a huge chunk out of his offseason. Sure. And he did not know what team he was going to play for. So when you look at things that way, it makes sense that he might not be as uber precise as. There's a reason that Rodgers always likes having Marquez Valdez-Scantling on his team. Like, guys that you have that precision with, it is easier to be precise. But it is also interesting that they're kind of using Patrick Mahomes as the carrot to dangle in front of Cam Ward of, look, even he does it this way. Like, I think a lot about I don't know if you were a Behind the Music viewer back when MTV was a television channel, but they always said in the Nevermind Nirvana episode that anytime Kurt Cobain was being difficult about not wanting to double track and loop his vocals, they would have to look at him and be like, well, John Lennon did it. John Lennon double tracked vocals. And Kurt would kind of be like, okay, well, I guess if Lennon did it, I can do it. Like that's kind of how they are treating Cam with Mahomes of like, look how Patrick takes some air off of his throw when you're throwing it to a check down. Like, look, he changes his arm angle. You should change your arm angle when you need to also.
I immediately now hope that Cam Ward makes it to 28 years old.
Never.
I don't know. Like, you have to be like a. Okay, I have a very weird reaction to that, but go ahead.
No. Again, this is me making the comparison. Nobody but me has thought of this strange comparison. But it is true that if you are somebody who has a respect or appreciation for a certain type of quarterback play,
sure,
and it is pointed out that that quarterback does things that you are resistant to or struggling with, that is a good indicator of, Well, you want to be like that guy, so why don't you do it like that guy? I'm not suggesting go full Dylan Raiola, but I am saying that sometimes it makes sense to kind of emulate and copy the things that you appreciate and observe and respect.
I want to know what was your takeaway about this section, because clearly he's talking about arm slot as well, which is about batted balls around the line of scrimmage. It's about the right arm angle slot and RPM for the right throw and the right play and the right direction of the throw. He is like, I think, top 3 in the NFL in batted balls at the line of scrimmage. Cam Ward is. I was trying to look that up as we're talking here. So what was your takeaway from that part? I didn't gain a lot in that portion.
I thought
other than that they're clearly dangling Patrick Mahomes in front of him, which,
what Bo, I don't remember if this made in the story. We talked about the batted balls a little bit. Bo essentially said some of that is circumstantial and some of that's arm slot related. They are not ignoring that some of it's arm slot related, but they are adamant they do not want to change Cam's throwing motion.
Which I agree with. I'm fine with that. Yeah.
So some of it's circumstantial. Sometimes balls get tipped, balls get batted. It's going to happen. Some of it is, we're not going to change your motion, but on these types of throws, you need to be willing to pick up your elbow a little bit. My big takeaway was the Mahomes stuff, was this is how you motivate the guy. This is how you teach the guy. And again, they think it's getting through to him. They used the example that I put in the story of if you're trying to swing a pass out to the running back on 3rd down and you need to get it over somebody, going around them versus going over them, it does make more sense to go over them. Yeah, that was my takeaway, was that there is teaching happening that is more than just, hey, do it. Like, that's not what's going on.
Yeah. He is tied for 6th right now with 11 batted balls. I don't think he had one this past game, so I think a couple of quarterbacks moved up on him. Just to comment on Ryan's comment here in terms of the batted balls. Nina Blackwood, you know who Nina Blackwood is?
I don't remember the name, unfortunately.
Okay, I have more of a recollection of her. Ed, you're okay, man. You might be the oldest one in the chat, but there are some other people here that know what you're talking about. You mean MTV used to be a show more than just catfish and ridiculousness? Darren says, but Cam definitely has an ACC problem. It's way worse than anyone has been talking about. Are you talking about?
I think he means accuracy.
Oh, accuracy problem. Okay, I was thinking like level of competition, not forcing him to do any of this stuff on the college level. Washington State's schedule certainly didn't force him to do any of this stuff on the college level, and certainly Incarnate Word in his high school, as we know.
I also asked about this, and that was a man, it's too hard to say kind of answer.
Sure. I mean, he had better players than everybody he played against in his final season at Miami, for sure. There's no question about that at all.
All right, let's quickly wrap Vision and Eyes and Brain all
Kurt
together.
Loder. Yes, I know who Kurt Loder is for sure. Everyone knows who that is.
Yeah.
Eyes, it's all about pre-snap elimination. I thought great story from Brady about, it's not about predicting what's going to happen. It's about predicting what's not going to happen. And I think Cam's gotten better at that.
I think so too.
But it's still marginal in general.
I think this is probably the least marginal one. I think this is the one that I can see the ball coming out quicker. I can see him being less reliant on fading in the pocket as he's looking for something downfield. Now, is that to the detriment of him making big plays? A little bit. It is obvious that all of these short passes are not hitting on big plays. It's also obvious that if the Titans draft somebody or sign somebody who is more explosive after the catch, then these short passes can lead to more. But I do think that the elimination factor, the ability to know, okay, they're not running zone. Okay, they are covering this back this way, so that route's not going to work. Okay, these are my 2 targets who should be able to pop open high and low on these reads. I think that's happening. I give him credit for growing there. I do think he's in the phase of growth where taking what the defense gives you often means taking the worst thing on the field. The defense will give you stuff that's not going to work that well.
You mean a 1-yard pass to Gunnar Helm on 3rd and 20?
Yeah. So, take what the defense gives you, often forgets to mention the defense is willing to give you crappy stuff.
Yeah.
And I think he's gotten better at taking what the defense is giving him.
Almost too much.
That to his detriment. So he's in the awkward pubescent phase of this
overcorrection, a little overcorrection, perhaps. Yeah. And so look, I think the eyes and the brain, since they're both in the same place, I think all kind of work together.
Agreed.
I think the thing that has always given Cam the best chance to succeed is his sort of mentality, is the focus, all the things we've talked about. And Bo said it. I'm not worried about him trying to fix problems. It's the best thing he's got going for him. So I think his brain is swimming right now with the experience with all the intel he has acquired in the last 12 games. I think that's what's happening. Is he's got all this stuff he knows he needs to work. He learned he needed to work on in camp, has begun the process to work on all of it. Some of it's developing faster than others. And at the same time, the defenses are evolving and adapting and changing to him, figuring out what they can and can't do to attack him. And your head spins real fast at that position in this sport. The accuracy outside the numbers down the field is not, I don't think that one's kind of on its own. That, like, Shedeur Sanders showed us. One of the only things I thought Shedeur Sanders showed in the Cam Ward Shedeur Sanders thing, which I think is blown way out of proportion, is he knows how to hit a guy with a really small window down the field outside the numbers. Shedeur does. Mm-hmm. Cam has not shown us that yet, outside of the one Chig throw. And maybe, I guess, the Arizona game, like 2 throws in the Arizona game, to Ridley and to Helm.
Yeah.
So I don't know. How do you wrap this all up?
I mean, if we're making the Shedeur comparison, I wrap it up as he was the first person all year who had to throw against the Tennessee Titans. So 12 games in, 13 games in, he was the first quarterback who played from behind against the Titans. So therefore his numbers are reflective of that.
Well, no, he was I said this on Monday. Well. I said this on Monday. He was under 500 at like 4.5 minutes to go in the game. He was under 50%. Like, Cam Ward had a better completion percentage than Shedeur Sanders up until like the last drive.
Yeah,
basically.
But what do I think of the way his head's at? Dude needs to check his confidence at the door sometimes. But I appreciate that he thinks he's as good as he thinks he is. He's really good. He's really talented. I appreciate that he believes in his talent. I appreciate that he believes in his ability to access that talent and be a really good football player someday. But I think that can get him in trouble sometimes as well.
Well, I imagine, to Bo's point about the offseason being where precision comes.
Right.
I would assume that the offseason is where the long-form processing happens internally.
Yeah.
You don't really have time for it right now. You got a half a day off, and then you're on to the next game plan. But long-form, and everybody processes differently. Like, me personally, I need to, like, put myself in a very specific situation. Like, I need to be on a porch at night with no stimuli, and like to go through something that I'm working through. Like, I need to put myself in a situation to do it. I can't really do it during the day because I'm just kind of constantly doing stuff. And so I do think the offseason is where that type of growth and maturity and humility and everything else. And again, he's not like some arrogant, cocky asshole. Like, that's not what I'm saying here. But I agree, that kind of processing doesn't happen in the season.
No,
I would guess. Okay. Quickly here, let me give you a couple nuggets around the Super Bowl. TPAC was recently announced that it was going to have this new location. That's the Tennessee Performing Arts Center, is going to be moving from downtown to the river right there next to the Siegenthaler pedestrian bridge, which is going to be kind of catty corner-ish from the new Titan Stadium. There'll be a couple of buildings in between, but basically it will be one of the front porch elements of the new East Bank development, including the stadium. It is targeted to be finished, from what I understand, late 2029. I have said on this show, like a year ago maybe, when I talked to some folks in and around the teams that bring events to the city, that they are that the common assumption is that you cannot have half-built buildings all around the Super Bowl venue. I think that's pretty common sense, right? Mm-hmm. You can't start building things in these 30 acres around the stadium and then just stop it for 4 months.
Yes.
To have a Super Bowl. It doesn't work. You kind of have to have it finished or more likely, you need to have the event before it begins. I've also talked to some people on the construction side of this that agree that there is probably a pause coming in their plans around construction. There's major companies. They built SoFi, they're building Buffalo Bills Stadium, etc. I am not reporting any of this, but I think if you start connecting dots from all different angles of all of this, you can start to see where a window could be open from roughly December of 2029 to February of maybe March of 2030, that there will be a break, quote unquote, break in the action in terms of construction and development of the IDA. I would not be surprised if that is the window in which Nashville gets a Super Bowl. That's all.
You heard it here first.
That's
Braden is putting it in ink. This is when it's going to happen.
There you go. So I just want to throw that out there. What I'm doing is I'm taking a little bit of information from column A, a little bit of information from column B, a little bit of information from column C, trying to put it together. And from a common sense standpoint, when does this make sense? And I thought it was like 2032. Then I thought it was 2031. Now I'm starting to think 2030. WrestleMania, I think, is already busted. I think WrestleMania is already booked for June of 27.
I think that is supposed to be the first major event at the new Nissan Stadium.
If it's before CMA Fest that June, I'm not sure. But CMA Fest will be in the building on in June of 27.
Yeah,
which all happens before it hosts a football game.
Yes.
Like there'll be lots of things happening in the building before the football game is hosted. So, all right, I just want to float that because I talked to somebody yesterday about this, and I want to kind of just I still think it's earlier than people realize. Also, that will be the 2029 season, which would be the third year of the new stadium, correct?
Yes. Yeah.
That's about when the NFL gives new buildings a Super Bowl. Also, like just context clues here. Okay. San Francisco, Robert Saleh, of course, the defensive coordinator. We've got the Shanahan tree with Clint Kubiak as the OC for Seattle. We just saw him a couple of weeks ago. Seemed to do a good job scheming up his wide receiver in that game. Jeff Hafley, the defensive coordinator for the Packers, is off this tree as well. There are others. They, of course, tried to hire Adam Peters, who left and just said no first and went to the Washington Commanders, has done really good work there. They instead settled for Rand Carthon. We know how that's played out. What do you make of studying the San Francisco 49ers defense this week, first and foremost? And then what do you make of playing against a bunch of coaches that you know are sort of looking at you as much as you're looking at them?
Yeah, we can also throw in, obviously not looking at the Titans, but DeMeco Ryans comes from this tree, and the Titans saw just how difficult playing this style of defense can be. Probably the two toughest defensive games the Titans have played this season against Houston. I think that there is a lot to be said of studying this Shanahan tree and having it study you back. I think that I was talking to Brandon Allen yesterday, who spent the last 2 years in San Francisco before coming to the Titans. And I'm like, what's different? Like, you've been under a lot of coaches. You've been around a lot of teams. Well, why does this Shanahan thing work? And he kind of singled out more than anywhere else he's been. They do a great job of convincing the players that are the backups that they're just as good as the starters. That there is no luxury of not being able to play if you're called upon. And pointing out all of the injuries and all of the coaching turnover and all of the roster turnover that San Francisco has gone through in the 8 years since Shanahan took over, and looking at all of that stuff and saying, there's no excuse when Kittle gets hurt. There's no excuse when Brock gets hurt. There's no excuse when Fred Warner gets hurt. Yeah. All of these players, you need to be good. You need to be your best. And the other thing that makes this solid defense so difficult is something that Nick Holtz told me the other day. This idea of they know their defense so well that they know how to attack it. And so they already have the fail-safe adjustments built in when we break something. We break their defense, they know how to adjust. And they know how we're going to adjust, and we can adjust to that as well. It's the old they don't know, we know, they know, we know, they know thing. Like, it is very much they are 3 steps ahead because they have schemed in the breaks to fix their own broken defense.
They've schemed in the breaks to fix their own broken defense.
If somebody beats their
Interesting.
base, they know how to adjust to what people have done to beat them. They know how people beat them, and they already have the adjustments in place. That's really tough to beat. If it's like, oh, they did this thing that exposes us, we have to adapt to this now. Oh, they adapted this way, now we do this. They're not just installing the best case scenario, they're installing the fail safes, or at least that's how it appears from afar.
It's debugging ahead of the bugging.
Yes, which is a very intellectual but also a very aggressive way to scheme a defense. And yeah, that's a really cool thing, and that's something that makes Saleh such an interesting professorial candidate, in addition to the leadership stuff, in addition to the stuff I'm talking about of motivating everybody to be as good as Nick Bosa, be as good as Fred Warner. There is also this, again, professorial perspective that I think is very, very interesting, not just of Saleh. As we mentioned, Kubiak comes from that tree, Hafley comes from that tree. I think there are, I counted this the other day, 7 other offensive, defensive, or special teams coordinators in the NFL who have worked for Kyle Shanahan at some point, and that is not counting Saleh and all these guys we mentioned and their current coordinators. It is a tree that is rapidly spreading across the NFL. And some of those are rehash hires. Some of those are Steve Wilkes and Brandon Staley and guys who bounced back on San Francisco staff. But some of them are, what's the offensive coordinator in Green Bay? Adam Stenovich.
Yeah.
He's a San Francisco guy. There are 3 special teams coordinators in the NFL who are ex-San Francisco guys. It is very interesting. And that's not mentioning Adam Peters. That's not mentioning Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah, the general manager in Minnesota.
Yeah.
And there's Rant. So...
Oh, Titans got the good one.
It is not to say that it's a 100% success rate. Saleh did not work in Minnesota. McDaniel has had mixed results in Miami. Rand did not work here in Nashville. I'm not saying this is a 100% hit rate, but the tentacles are really, really spreading at this point.
Richard says, do you think Chris Shula gets a look? Please go listen to last week's episode where he was a main focus of our entire conversation. I think we hit like almost 23, 24 candidates on last week's episode, so make sure you check that out. I would be curious to compare and contrast success rate of the McVay tree versus the Shanahan tree, because on top of all the stuff that you just talked about, which I find to be interesting because it's peeling back the layers of why they're good, it also, like, you have to sort of start with, they have extraordinary talent evaluators and extraordinary talent developers and extraordinary, like, Shanahan just has a brilliant scheme, right? Like, so like there, you have to kind of start with all of that, and then you add in, all right, what makes them better at X, Y, and Z. So I think that's where I'd love to know, like, comparing the McVay, like Belichick's success rate, we famously is bad, right?
Yes. Yeah.
So I'd love to compare and contrast the names that have been around McVay and Shanahan, and which one goes on to do more, have more success. I think that would be very interesting. I am totally on board with Robert Saleh and as the hire for this team. You got to go get a kind of an OC that's willing to just, be in the laboratory all the time. But that's why you hire Robert Saleh, so you can put the OC in the laboratory all the time.
Yeah.
So I'm down with that. It'll be really interesting to see. I don't think, here's the follow. I don't think the Rand thing should have an impact on this for 2 reasons. One, these are all different humans, and it shouldn't matter. Like, you draft one player from a team, it shouldn't mean you don't draft another player from a team. Like, it's not that, they're all different people. They're all different experiences. I don't think it matters. Also, the folks making decisions on this are Chad Brinker and Mike Borgonzi did not hire Rand Carthon.
Yeah.
So the 2 people who would be making, ultimately, we would think, the coaching hire, those 2 in some form of, market share there, weren't involved in hiring Rand Carthon, so they wouldn't be burnt by that. So I don't think that's a factor, in my opinion. I don't know if you agree with that or not.
No, I would mostly agree. I think that you do need to do your diligence. I know it's going to be a PR hit to hire back from the place that you hired somebody who did not end up working out from, but I think coaches are also different than general managers. And I think that Saleh has enough of a reputation of how he did it on his own that it will play a different way.
Ed says, my only concern with Saleh, aside from his OC choice, is the Jets locker room around his demise. But if you do research into that and are comfortable, I'm down for him. What are your thoughts on the locker? I thought that was more. I didn't think that was more about him, but you tell me what you think.
Yeah, I mean, everything that you heard about the dysfunction in New York felt like it stemmed from ownership.
Yeah.
I'm not there. I'm not going to directly criticize stuff. It did seem like ownership had a lot to do with it. It did feel like Aaron Rodgers had a lot to do with it. I don't think there were very many people who thought that Saleh was the cancerous part of that ordeal. And I also think if you look at his 2 years in the middle, he went 7-10 both times. And those were years where he had Joe Flacco and Trevor Siemian and Mike White and a lot of quarterbacks that were just cycling through that were signed off the street to play quarterback. And they went 7-10 in a tough AFC.
What's the name of Woody Johnson's? Is it his son?
I don't know the name, but I know you're right.
Yeah. That he's like cosplaying ownership. That's part of the problem. I wonder what Robert Saleh would think about the Titans. Not exactly, but similar situation with Bryce Wasserman. I don't know.
I don't know either.
He's got a lot of power inside the organization, so we'll see. Brick. Is his name Brick or is it Brink? I thought it was Brink. Or maybe it's Brick Johnson. Is it Brick Johnson? Sounds right. Anyway, all right. Sinkers Beverages, everybody, please go shop at Sinkers Beverages for all your holiday needs. Stocking stuffers, office party, last-minute gift idea. Sinkers Beverages is truly a fail-safe here. You walk in there, you'll find something for somebody in your life this holiday season. Don't overthink it. Don't stress about it. Go rate to Sinkers Beverages. All right, you want to do a Heisman rant real fast?
I don't like any of these candidates, and I don't like that any of them are going to win the Heisman Trophy. It bugs me.
Stop.
I wish that we had a gradient of what a good Heisman winner and a default Heisman winner is. When was the last time we had a Heisman winner that you would be this unenthused about? Jason White? Troy Smith?
Mark Ingram.
Mark Ingram.
Mark Ingram is the least inspiring Heisman winner that I can think of.
I think that,
but that's not. I disagree. I
had a Heisman vote from 2018 through 2022. I don't think any of the finalists for this year's Heisman would have made the top 3 on my ballot any of those years.
Oh, I disagree.
I don't think any of these 4 finalists.
09 was terrible.
I said from 2018 to 22.
Oh, I thought you said 2008. I thought you said 2008. No. Sorry,
I had a ballot from 18 to 22 from Kyler Murray.
There's some rock stars in there.
From Kyler Murrey's Heisman year through
Baker. Is that Baker Mayfield?
No, 22. It was Kyler through who's 22, but Bryce Young. No, it was the guy after Bryce Young. Caleb.
I can't keep them all in order.
So yeah, I had ballots for the Kyler year, the Joe Burrow year, Devontae Smith year, Bryce Young year, Caleb Williams year. Five ballots.
I don't think I voted for Devontae Smith. I don't think I voted for him.
I did. I had a policy that I think I only broke the COVID year because of how weird it was, that I never doubled up on position. If I voted for 3 players, they came from 3 separate positions. I wasn't going to vote 3 quarterbacks.
But isn't that arbitrary to some degree?
I'm just saying what my policy is. So my votes, how I would have voted, I would have picked 1 quarterback. And whether I picked Mendoza or whether I picked Pavia, I don't think there is any year of the 5 years that I had a ballot that those guys would have been considered the best quarterback in the country those years. Wouldn't have been better than Kyler in 18. Obviously wouldn't have been better.
Because you got this weird cockamamie rule. But how do you know that 2 quarterbacks aren't the best 2 of the best 3 players? Like, that seems silly. No?
But everybody has to have a policy. Everybody has to have a rule they go by, and this is my rule. I'm not saying that you have to go by my rule. I'm just saying I am not inspired. I don't think that there is any year where Jeremiah Love would have been the best running back in the country compared to the other running backs in the years that I was voting. I don't think there's any year Pavia would have been in the top 2 or 3 quarterbacks the year I was voting. If you look at Pavia's statistics, and I'm not just basing this on statistics, we're going to talk about other stuff too, but if you look at the numbers he put up this year compared to 2021 Sam Howell and 2021 Matt Corral, this is the thing that's gotten me in the most trouble in my entire life, is not voting for Matt Corral the Heisman Trophy that year. Because Matt Corral was not meaningfully better than Sam Howell, who had no rights winning the Heisman Trophy that year. Pavia's numbers are identical to both of those guys. And what Matt Corral did that year was go 10-2 on an SEC team that didn't make the playoff, but he was the whole offense. The team wouldn't have made sense without him. 10-2 SEC team, top 10 to top 15, didn't make the playoff. He was the leading passer. He was the functional leading rusher. He was scoring, throwing touchdowns, and rushing touchdowns. That's Pavia. Same argument, similar output. I just don't think that there would have been a justification for any of these guys to win the Heisman Trophy in a year that is players playing better. None of these are Heisman-worthy performances.
So first and foremost, the Joe Burrow, Jaden Daniels of it all happened to be at the same school. The extraordinary production of those and like just astronomical Lamar Jackson kind of stuff. Like, you can't hold every player every season to the most insane standards that historically epic players deliver. You're dead wrong about the Jeremiah Love comment. Last year, he would not have beaten Ashton Genty. There's no question about that. So you're right about that. Every other year, I've just gone back and looked. The highest vote getter at running back before Ashton Genty was Ollie Gordon at 7th. Jeremiah Love is a better player than that, 1,700 yards. Blake Corum was the highest voted running back the year before that, 7th. The year before that was Kenneth Walker at 6th.
Walker had a better year that year than Love did this year.
The one I would disagree with, or I'd agree with you on, because I actually think I actually did vote Najee Harris as a winner, and I was like one of 16 people that did that.
Yeah, he ran twice as many touchdowns. He had 26 that year to Love's 13.
That's what I'm saying. I would agree with not. Yeah. I voted Najee Harris number 1 because I thought he was a more important piece of that offense than Devontae Smith was. I thought the whole thing revolved around him, and so I put them both on my ballot, but I had Harris at 1. Now, I'm not going to tell you who I voted for, but I disagree with, like, Matt Corral, and that Ole Miss thing is not even the same as doing what these two each year has a different set. It's sort of like how the committee does this, which is maybe not my best argument, but like every team has a different strength or weakness when you look at their resume, their dossier, whatever it is to vote on them to be the best team or not best team in the playoff. Every Heisman candidate has a different set of values that make them interesting. And sometimes, like Jeremiah Love, to me, if you are voting for the most outstanding player, that just freakish athlete who does things that nobody else in college football can do, who also had major production on a great team, I think you vote for Jeremiah Love. If you're going best defensive player in the entire country, it's Jacob Rodriguez, who forced 7 fumbles and had over 120 tackles and I think 12 tackles for loss and 4 interceptions, scored 3 rushing touchdowns.
Wasn't even the best defensive player on his own team, but
he's not the best NFL prospect on his own team, but he was the best defensive player on his team.
David Bailey has 74 pressures this year.
He's a great player. He's a great player and a better NFL prospect. My point is that you can, like, is that guy better than Ndamukong Suh? Better than Travis Hunter? Better than Aiden Hutchinson? Guys that finished in and around. No, but these are historically, epically great players we're comparing him to, which I don't necessarily think is fair. You're only being compared to what's happening this season. I think what makes this season interesting and different is you could do the traditional Jason White, Heisman Trophy, Mark Ingram thing with Julian Sayin. And I think that is a boring thing to do. So while I cannot tell you who I voted for, I will tell you Julian Sayin was not on my ballot. That is just picking the best quarterback off the best team and giving him a nod. I think that's lazy voting, in my opinion. But Pavia and Mendoza have done 2 things that are unprecedented in the history of the sport. The Indiana and Vanderbilt seasons are unprecedented. The historical context, which maybe isn't the best criteria, is important to me as a voter in these 2 stories.
But why are you okay giving historical context to the teams and the players, but not to the trophy? If you're saying the historical context matters about Indiana, then you also have to look at the historical context of who wins the Heisman Trophy. And what history tells us is that the average quarterback that wins the Heisman Trophy throws about 20 more touchdowns than Mendoza and Pavia did. Why ignore that history while taking in the history?
20. They have like 35 touchdowns.
They have Pavia has 27.
Well, he's rushed. He's rushed
for 9. He's rushed for 9.
They have about 35 total touchdowns.
Okay, then 10 more.
Okay, all right.
Then 10 more.
Again,
then
comparing
there's still 10
Pavia
touchdowns behind
to Joe Burrow isn't fair or correct.
I'm not comparing him to Joe Burrow. I'm comparing him to Bryce Young.
comparing.
I'm comparing him to Caleb Williams. I'm comparing him to an average Heisman winner. I'm not trying to compare him to Cam Newton or Joe Burrow.
God, 47 touchdown passes. That's insane.
Yeah.
I didn't realize Bryce Young had 47.
Bryce Young threw 47 touchdowns.
There's a lot of touchdowns.
Like
a lot of touchdowns.
And then look up what Caleb did, and look up what all these guys did.
Caleb had 42 touchdowns passing. I don't have the rushing numbers in front of me. He had 10. So, yeah, he's at 52.
Yeah.
Again, why is that the thing that we should hold? My historical context is more about, how like you look at Dan Mullen at Mississippi State and you have to evaluate the head coach at Mississippi State against other head coaches at Mississippi State, not against coaches at Alabama or Georgia or Florida.
Sure. Go ahead and look up how many career SEC Coach of the Year trophies Dan Mullen won. I'll spoil it for you. The answer is 0.
Well, that's not my point. My point is
we're judging it. You judge it against what's happening. The better team won. The more accomplished team. Yeah, he went 8-4. Good for him. The trophy went to the guy who went 12-0.
But it's so much harder. My point is it's so much harder to go 8-4 at Mississippi State than it is at Alabama, which everybody knows. Everybody knows. And it's not to say that it's harder to do what Pavia did at Vanderbilt, and it's harder to do what Mendoza did at Indiana, but that is just a fact. It is harder to do what they did this year than what Joe Burrow did at LSU, in my opinion. Because we saw it happen 2 years later with Jaden Daniels. It is so much easier to put up those numbers and to be that historically great and to lead a team to victory, even at Ole Miss and North Carolina, than it is at Indiana and Vanderbilt. I think they're great candidates. Are they as good as Joe Burrow or Jaden Daniels or Lamar Jackson or Bryce Young? Maybe not. Is this a quote-unquote slightly less than year for the Heisman in college football? I'm okay with that take. I'm not opposed to that. But it doesn't mean someone's less deserving.
It fundamentally does. It fundamentally does. If they are worse candidates than the guys who won, they are less deserving than the guys who won. The trophy has to be given out. The trophy has to be given out.
Someone has to be picked number 1 in the 2024 draft.
Yes.
2025 draft, I should say.
The trophy has to be given out. But as long as we can all sit here and say that this will be a historically, given the context of the last 20 to 25 years in college football, a historically weak Heisman Trophy winner. Jason's in the comment comparing Diego Pavia to Tim Tebow. Tim Tebow is a guy who we can confidently say scored 20 more touchdowns. Like
in his 07 season.
In his 07 season, I think he was responsible for 50, responsible for 48.
I would guess that it was a lot.
I think he was a 20-20 player that year, 20 passing, 20 rushing.
I think he was the first. I think he was the first ever SEC player to do 20 rushing, 20 and 20. Because then Cam Newton came back and did it again.
Yeah.
55 touchdowns in 07. Again,
20 more. So it's not comparable to Tebow. It is worse than Tebow while doing what Tebow did.
I think he's comparing also Tebow. I think Tebow lost 4 times that year. What I think is the right comparison is sort of like the type of player he is and what he means to the team.
Okay.
I think
look up Johnny Manziel.
Saying that Mendoza is just giving it to the best quarterback on the best team. I think that's wrong. I don't think that's correct at all. He made huge throws for an organization that has never been in this situation in the history. And if you don't think that's the right way to categorize or caveat the award, I'm okay with that. I do value that. I think that is important. That if you're playing in the Pac-12 for Lincoln Riley and USC in the last 10 years, you probably put up huge numbers. Those numbers mean a little bit less to me. But if you do it at Vanderbilt in the SEC, you do it at Indiana in the Big Ten, and you do it better than anyone in the history of the sport has ever done it, that is important context for me. It's not the reason you vote for somebody, but I think it matters. That's all.
But it's the only reason that these guys are getting the love that they're getting. It is the only reason.
You don't think Diego Pavia and Fernando Mendoza are 2 of the most valuable, if not the most valuable players in the sport right now?
I think they are in a year where there is nobody who deserves the Heisman Trophy.
God, what are you, Tennessee? Are you secretly a Tennessee grad? Do you have Pavia derangement syndrome? Is that what you got?
I don't think that it is unfair that if you want to talk about Johnny Manziel, if you want to talk about somebody who is the most comparable to Pavia on the field and off the field, talk about a guy who first year in the SEC, A&M had never been this competitive in their last 20 years in the Big 12.
Don't compare A&M and Vanderbilt.
It's not right, but it's the closest comparison we have among Heisman Trophy winners. So I'm not sitting here talking about Sam Howell. I'm talking about a literal Heisman Trophy winner. If you want to compare what Manziel did, not only statistically, but also beating number 1 Alabama, Also, having these true Heisman moments rather than Diego's best win is South Carolina, rather than
on
Diego's,
the road to Tennessee, probably.
I just don't think that it is
If Johnny
just
wins,
there. All I'm saying is whoever wins the Heisman Trophy will be the least deserving Heisman Trophy winner since at least 2009 and potentially 2003.
Johnny Manziel's passing numbers are actually worse than Pavia's passing numbers, actually. 3,700 yards, 26 touchdowns, 9 interceptions. Pavia was better, I think, in all three of those categories. He went for 1,400 on the ground.
600 more rushing yards and how many more touchdowns?
And 21 touchdowns. So
yeah, so 21 to 9.
Pavia was number 2 in the country in yards in total offense. 340 yards almost per game. Only Byron Brown was better than him in the entire country. And so, again, I guess it's irrelevant that he's not as good as Derrick Henry. Like, it's irrelevant. I don't like.
I mean,
it doesn't mean he's not deserving.
Context of the trophy,
but it's not. But it doesn't change who wins the award this year. So you're just poo-pooing the entire award this year because all of college football's players were not as good as Tim Tebow or Johnny Manziel or Cam Newton or whoever else.
Yeah.
Okay,
it's my rant.
Fair enough. Notre Dame, stop being a bunch of big babies. Okay, I actually have no problem with Notre Dame saying no to the bowl game. This is my rant. We're changing subjects here.
Okay.
Notre Dame, I think is great. I have no problem. I'm here for the petty. You didn't get into the playoffs, say no to the bowl game, take your ball and go home. I think it's funny. I think it's hilarious. I think it's great. But the fact that you are trying to extract even more special treatment from the SEC, the Big Ten, the ACC, the Big 12, and the TV networks, and you're probably going to get it, is offensive to me. It's offensive to me. You already get all the special treatment, most of which you've self-imposed on you've done to yourself, which is fine too. I got no problem with that either. But they are further from joining a conference today than they were 2 weeks ago because they got left out and they acted like a bunch of big babies about how they need special treatment for all this, and the other thing. They already get special treatment because their athletic director sits on the board where no other team has one sitting on the board of the playoff. Like they have so much special treatment, and if they give in, if the other conferences and the TV networks give in to Notre Dame and give them even more revenue and even more access to the tournament because they're special, it's never going to end. They're going to keep going. Now, I don't actually care if Notre Dame joins the conference or not. I don't actually care, but I don't want them to get even more special treatment. I don't like that part of this. That like, oh, if they finish in the top 8, they automatically get in. I'm like, no, I hate that. That's ridiculous. Like that's not the way it should be. So. That part, and I think there's all kinds of rumors now, swirling reports that every team in the Big Ten and the SEC might just never schedule them, which is bad for us as fans who want to see good football games. But I get it. It's like Oklahoma State saying, fine, we're never playing Bedlam ever again. When Oklahoma announced they were leaving for the SEC.
Yeah.
So I like the petty, but only to a point, No,
there are so many ways I can go about responding to this. I think the simplest and trying to be most rational way I can say is I think Notre Dame probably should have been in the playoff.
I totally agree.
It is a bummer that they didn't make it in because we think that there is sanctity of conference championship games. I do not care for the existence of conference championship games.
Also agree.
The Big Ten championship is not old enough to drive a car yet. The SEC and Big 12 championship games, your oldest conference championships, are barely 30 years old. And the Big 12 championship took a hiatus there in the little bit in the middle. The ACC championship, I believe, has been around for 21 years, which is much younger than the BCS. Let's stop pretending like these are these holy entities that matter so much. We can get rid of them. And if we got rid of them, 10-2 Alabama, I would have no problem with them being in the playoff.
Well,
the problem is I saw 10-3 Alabama play that 13th game.
Yeah, well, and if Miami had, they'd be 10-3 too. So no, Notre Dame is I agree. I think Notre Dame's better than Ole Miss. I think Notre Dame's better than Oklahoma. I think Notre Dame's better than Bama. I think Notre Dame. I had them at like 7 on my rankings. Like it wasn't even consideration for me that they should be left out. The conversation was Miami or Bama for the last spot, in my opinion. Yeah. The committee told us that the championship game outcomes didn't really matter.
Which is silly.
Well, no, but I think it's correct though, because 90% of the college football doesn't play games on that weekend. Why does the teams that are good enough to play in those games get faulted for it, or and don't help them either? They didn't help Georgia. They didn't move them up. They didn't help Texas Tech. They didn't move them up. All they did was flip Ohio State and Indiana for like ceremonial purposes. At the one team that they did this to, the one team that they didn't move Bama down, they said the championship game is a data point, but a smaller data point, which I think is accurate and correct because they were money grabs invented by R.I.P. Roy Kramer in 1992. The team that they affected, the team that they actually used the championship game to affect, was for their own reasons. They dropped BYU down a spot so they can move Miami up, and then Miami and Notre Dame all of a sudden flip, and so that they can use head-to-head as some sort of defining metric, which I guess is important, even though good teams lose to bad teams all the time in every sport, and they got to keep the ACC in the tournament. They did not have to drop BYU, and they did anyway, and it caused this chain reaction of all these other things. So that's my playoff rant with a little bit of your playoff rant. It's a blended playoff rant there.
Get rid of them. I'm fine with getting rid of these conference championship games.
I do think the Duke Virginia thing, I think, showed people something in positions of power, aka TV networks and conference commissioners. The Duke Virginia Indiana Ohio State was a great football game. It was very entertaining, but for like 1 versus 2 undefeated historical reasons, not for like actual it means anything reasons. The Duke Virginia game was total desperation on steroids. And that what that gives you, I think we're going to get 4 play-in games on Championship Saturday, and that 1 and 2 in these leagues are just automatically in. They're going to get in to the playoff itself. But teams 13 through 20 are going to have 4 Dayton-like play-in games. And oh, by the way, where do you play them? You could probably play them in Atlanta, Dallas, Charlotte, and Indy if you want to. And the winner of each of those games gets the last 4 seeds in the tournament. I think that's what they're going to do because it's great drama and great television, and we're all going to watch.
I'm too consistent of a human being, so I will admit that my consistency is not, I don't want to project it on other people. But Jason and Mr. Diamond, both of you in the comments here, ranting that the G5 doesn't belong in here. I don't like March Madness. I have said it unpopularly for a decade. I don't care for March Madness. But most people think it's the best event in sports because the little guys get a chance to beat the big guys. Because we all pretend that UMBC might be able to beat Virginia. I think they did. We all believe that Norfolk State might be able to beat Missouri. I think they did.
Who did South Carolina lose to as a 2 seed?
I don't remember. But it is like that. We all have this collective ignorance that 16 seeds have won, twice all time, once all time?
I think two times, and I think it's all happened in the last like 3 to 5 years, yeah.
We all collectively ignore the fact that these teams don't belong to be playing for a national championship.
Yeah, they're under 500 in some cases.
And even in the case, if you're the 30th at-large bid, you do not deserve to win a national championship for coming in 9th in the Big 12. No, you shouldn't be playing for a national championship. You came in 9th in the Big 12. But we love it because it's 68 teams all playing. So if you guys love that, love the fact that James Madison and Tulane get this shot.
So I agree with your end argument. I don't agree with the comparison. I think one guy can shoot a mid-major team over a more talented, deeper, better basketball team.
I get it.
Like you're one human away from winning an upset in basketball. I think there's also, I don't know how many total games are in an NCAA tournament, but there's like 35 total games you can watch. You don't watch half of them because half of them are blowouts. Whereas in the playoff, every one is the most important game you're all sitting down as a sport to watch.
And half of them are blowouts.
And some of them are blowouts, certainly in the first round for sure. I think this year as well. I do think I went back and looked at it, though. If you do the top 20 thing, if you do 13 through 20 are play-in spots, you get almost 2 or 3 G5 teams every year in the tournament. And the most important part of the G5 is not can they pull an upset in the tournament. The most important part of the G5 is that hundreds of other games during the regular season are meaningful. That more areas of the country are paying attention to the sport more times on Saturdays and Thursdays and than we ever have before. Everyone is watching Vanderbilt. Everyone is watching North Texas. Everyone is watching, like every game from every conference, big, small, otherwise. We are interested in more games for longer, and that was the point of expansion to some degree. And it's healthier for the sport, for the group of 5 to have that path. Yeah. I don't think you need to legislate it if you just do 20. If you have 13 through 20, play one extra game. Oh, by the way, pay them for that game, by the way, too. Let's pay them like some of the billions of dollars we're making off this stuff. If you do that, that is the area. Like you can still get, like I went back. There's some years where you have 3 group of 5 teams in the tournament if you go down to the top 20. So I don't think you have to legislate the rules. If you just say top 20 seeds get in, let's go.
And also, not to be more rant, I'm not trying to disagree so much with the people in the comments. Basketball is different than football. Basketball is different. Yes, I know basketball is different than football. I know this. But I would venture a guess. I have not done this math myself. I would venture a guess that if you look at the entire history of the BCS starting in 1998 and look at every BCS game that pitted a mid-major group of 5 team against a power conference team, and if you look at every March Madness game over that same period that pitted a mid-major team against a power conference team, the percentage of wins by the mid-majors would be fairly comparable, if not significantly higher in football. Small sample size is part of that, but also because, I don't know, the best mid-major team is going to be better in football than the 16 seed is in basketball.
Yeah. No question about that.
2009 Cincinnati or whatever it is, I think, is going to be better than Texas, Rio Grande Valley State or something like that.
Well, 2009 Cincinnati got destroyed by Florida. 2007 Hawaii got destroyed by Georgia.
I know that happens a lot.
Well, I think it's actually the opposite, but I think there's a lot more basketball mid-major upsets than there are football. But I think there's also a tier of product in basketball that doesn't exist in college football. Like there's Alabama and there's Troy, and they play 2 different sports with budgets that are significantly different. In basketball, there's a middle tier, like the Missouri Valley, the Atlantic 10, the Big East, where they are way more invested in their sport financially relative to the whole than like the mid-majors in football are. And that's why Butler can go to a national championship. That's why Creighton wins a lot of games all the time against power conference teams. Like it depends on how you're defined. If you're talking low major basketball, then I would agree with you. The George Masons and VCUs and like low major basketball, like Belmont's never won in the tournament, like famously. They've gotten there a bunch, but they've never won one. I would agree with you that the low majors don't win as much or win about as much as the football mid majors. But there's a whole other tier in basketball that that kind of exists in the middle. And that's also what makes basketball different. Is just the mid-major, true mid-major, has a better chance to pull an upset because all they need to do is recruit 2 great players. To be great in football, you need 70 great players. Like that's just the nature of it. Okay, we've gone way too long today, but there was a lot of college stuff to get to, and I do appreciate your time, Nick Suss. I appreciate all you guys listening. Enjoy the game this weekend against the Niners. Watch that Robert Saleh defense. Watch how the second level of players performs when somebody gets injured. Otherwise, I guess the Tennessee Titans will shoot for back-to-back wins for the first time since mid-November of 2022.
Since my 3rd and 4th game on the beat.
That is a long time for this organization to have not won back-to-back games. Wow. Sinkers Beverages, everybody, on Sunday afternoon when you need it. For Nick Suss, I'm Braden Gall. Thanks for listening. Thanks for hanging out. We do appreciate all you guys. Rate, review, subscribe, share the show. Thanks, everybody. Have a good weekend.